today is Jaleh of ODesk. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Welcome to Australia and for introducing us to ODesk. Tell us a little bit about the organisation.
Well, ODesk is the world's largest online workplace, and by that I mean we have more than 500,000 businesses, many of them small businesses, that have signed up on ODesk to work closely with contractors that they hire without regard to geographic boundaries. So you can go online and whatever you need, whether it's a virtual assistant or a programmer or someone to do your website for you, and choose a contractor. You can find the very best talent no matter where they are and hire them.
One of the things that we're always trying to do is give small businesses ways to build the capacity of their business without necessarily the overhead. 500,000 businesses, that's a lot of participation. Is Australia participating in ODesk?
Actually, Australia is the second largest user of ODesk. But on a per capita basis, now that's behind the United States. The United States is the largest user of ODesk. But on a per capita basis, it's actually the largest user of ODesk in the world. And so twice as many small businesses use ODesk in Australia than in the United States.
And what sort of things are we using ODesk for?
Everything, actually the largest categories that Australian businesses are using ODesk for are things like web programming, blogging, search engine optimization, website development, and a lot of virtual assistants are actually hired on ODesk. Now, one of the things that's very interesting is Australian businesses are proving themselves to be extremely savvy, and some of the more forward-thinking areas like HR and legal are growing fastest among Australian businesses. Is there a distinct participation from women as opposed to men? Do you have that sort of information? Actually, I do. You know, I must tell you, I read a report recently about Australian startups, and I was surprised to see that only 4% of startup owners in Australia are women. 4.3 was the number. That really shocked me. But on ODesk, 28% of the clients in Australia, or businesses in Australia using ODesk, are female-run. So, you know, I think that's an indicator that a lot of women in Australia are using ODesk. I have to tell you, last night I met several women clients. Very impressive. There was one woman who's running her own business. She's got 2 young children. She was, you know, as calm as could be. And she told me that the way she does this, she has a virtual assistant on ODesk, and she just sends her everything. She says she's a lifesaver. She happens to be in the Philippines. So at a very, you know, sort of affordable rate, she's able to stay organized and under control through her use of, you know, having this virtual assistant online.
So obviously as a business owner, I can access the services of people all over the world to build my capacity. However, can I also use it as, say, a mum who's taken some time off and I want to be at home with my children? How do I then use ODesk?
So we also have 3 million contractors worldwide on ODesk. And in Australia, we have 25,000 contractors. That is people who make their services available. And actually, I met some women yesterday who work on ODesk. One of them, very lovely woman, she was a translator. She translates from English to Arabic. She's a working mom. She has a kid, a young baby, and she cannot work full-time. So she works 20 hours a week, supplementing her income quite nicely, translating documents from English to Arabic.
And I can see the application. You might be an ex-marketing director or ex-virtual or ex-assistant or ex-accountant and be able to supplement your income. So lots of opportunities. I'm really surprised at the numbers of Australians that are already using the service and really excited because we're big fans of teleworking and outsourcing. And just because you're a small business, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the very best people and talent on your team.
I have to say, having been here in Sydney for just a week, it's become obvious to me really quickly what a savvy set of businesses you have here. Very, very open-minded, very clever about using online work to be successful. And a lot of what we saw is businesses. For example, I met a woman last night. She says she has 5 employees here in Sydney, but she said she couldn't even have her business if she wasn't able to delegate a lot of sort of the less, you know, we call it best and highest use. So they're free to work on what they do, which is actually social media marketing, but they go on ODesk to find people to help them with the research, to help them with some of the day-to-day so that in Australia, she can afford to build her business and hire people in Australia to be successful.
Perhaps let's finish up with just a couple of tips on how to use it successfully as a small business contracting others. Are there any particular tips that you would have?
Yes. Well, the first is when you go on ODesk and you sign up, remember this. Managing someone elsewhere in the world, and they are a team member of yours, even if they're sitting in, Schenectady, New York, whether they're in Darwin or whether they're in, Pakistan, they're a team member of yours. You need to manage them in very much the same way as you would someone sitting right next to you. So what does that mean? That means you need to be extremely crisp and clear in what you want to get done. You need to communicate it extremely well. You need to check in often. In the early days, you need to check in more often than later. And you should also, just like any good manager, when the person's doing a good job, give them kudos, give them praise, give them a bonus. It'll go a long way towards motivating them. One little other tip I would have, and this is something I do myself, one of the great things about online work is it's on demand. This is your flexible bench. So if you just need someone to do your accounting for 5 hours a week or some legal work for you for 10 hours or whatever, this is the advantage of using a service like ODesk. You can, because it's so on demand, you can actually test out multiple people at the same time. So I've often done it this way. I have a larger project, but I take a 2-hour chunk, and I try out 2 or 3 different people at the same time. I just present it to them as this is a little job I have, and then once I realize who's the best, so I get to try before I buy, which isn't what you're able to do when you're hiring full-time on premise, then I choose the best fit for me and for that job and proceed to give them the larger project. And it's worked out wonderfully well.
Thank you so much for joining us.